Romans loved dogs. They kept them as guards, hunters, and companions. Which makes this next ritual feel shocking. Once a year, Romans killed puppies in a public ceremony. Not for food. Not as punishment. And not because they hated dogs. They did it to protect wheat. Because one tiny enemy terrified the Roman world. A red crop disease called rust. If rust spread through the fields, an entire harvest could collapse. To understand the ritual, you have to understand Roman fear. Rome was a city, but it still lived on agriculture. Wheat meant bread. Bread meant survival. Bread fed workers, soldiers, families, officials, and the city itself. If wheat failed, everyone felt it. That is where Robigalia comes in. Robigalia was a Roman festival. It was held in late April, right when crops were vulnerable. The name came from Robigo, or sometimes Robigus, a divine force linked to crop blight. Especially the reddish fungus called rust. Romans did not think nature was neutral. Nature had moods, wills, and gods behind it. So if a disease ruined wheat, the danger was not just biological. It was spiritual too. The Romans believed the threat could be negotiated, appeased, delayed, or pushed away with ritual. So every year, priests and citizens went outside the city, toward the 5th milestone on the Via Claudia. There they held ceremonies, prayers, and sacrifice. The main priest involved was the Flamen Quirinalis. He represented one of Rome's ancient priesthoods. At Robigalia he offered prayers, asking the blight to spare the fields. Ovid describes the ritual in his Fasti. He gives us one of the clearest ancient accounts. In his version, the priest begs Robigo, "Do not scorch the grain. Do not stain the crops red. Let the wheat ripen safely. And let the sickles cut full ears." Then came the part people remember. A puppy was sacrificed. Some sources also mention a sheep. But the puppy is the detail that stands out. Why a puppy? Ancient writers do not give one simple explanation. But historians have a few possibilities. One idea is symbolic color. Rust disease turns grain reddish. Red dogs, or reddish animals, may have fit the ritual logic. Another idea is substitution. You offer one living thing so something larger will be spared. Better one sacrificial victim than thousands of dying wheat stalks. In Roman religion, that kind of exchange was not unusual. Sacrifice was communication. It was a transaction. A plea made visible. Blood for protection. Ritual for security. And remember, this was not random cruelty in Roman eyes. It was practical religion. They were trying to solve a real problem. Rust fungus was devastating. Today we know it is a plant disease. Then, Romans saw only the result. Healthy green fields suddenly turning weak, stained, and unproductive. That was terrifying. So Robigalia mixed religion and agriculture. It was a farming emergency ritual. And it was not just sacrifice. The day also included races. Ancient sources mention competitions, including races for men and boys. That tells you something important. This was not a secret dark ceremony. It was a recognized public festival. People gathered, watched, prayed, and participated. It belonged to the Roman calendar. To modern eyes, the puppy sacrifice feels grotesque. To Romans, losing the crop was worse. Their world had no fungicides, no modern crop science, and no safety net. If the harvest failed, hunger could follow. Prices could rise fast. Political tension could rise too. Food supply was power in the ancient world. So protecting wheat was not a minor issue. It was a state concern. That is why a strange ritual survived. Not because Romans were irrational, but because they were desperate to control uncertainty. When science is limited, ritual becomes technology. It becomes a tool for calming fear. A way to act, even when you do not understand the cause. That is what makes Robigalia so revealing. It shows how Romans thought. They linked gods, disease, weather, politics, and farming into one system. The harvest was never just agriculture. It was religion, economy, and survival all at once. One sick field could become a social crisis. So yes, ancient Romans really did sacrifice puppies. And yes, they did it to save their crops. Not because it worked scientifically, but because it made sense inside their world. A world where fungi had gods, wheat fed empires, and ritual was a form of protection. Strange, brutal, and very Roman. If you want more forgotten history like this, subscribe. Because the ancient world was far weirder than most people realize.